Alright guys, this is Zen Ins Art. Zen Ins Art is a really unique card game that uses machine learning with AI to allow you to have, well, many benefits that other card games don't. Basically, the way this game works is you are going to have an AI pal, a code man, as it were. There's many different code men to choose from, and they all have different kind of like play styles. But most importantly, they will learn with you as you play. So they'll be able to make suggestions on what you should do, which is actually really similar to some like chess formats that have like AI assistance, like suggestion-based stuff, which you can choose to follow or not. But the thing is that as you play these games, your AI will learn from the games and kind of develop your play style with machine learning. That's really cool. And in addition to that, when you're queuing on ladder, you are going to be against the decks that opponents are playing, but it's going to be their AI playing them. So it's asynchronous PvP, which has a few benefits, the biggest of which being that there's no roping. And then that's great, you know, because there's nothing worse in card games than, you know, someone who's just taking like 60 seconds every turn. Am I right, guys? That's actually sort of fun. You got to develop a bit of a rapport with your AI buddy while you're, you know, battling other things. They're kind of always talking to you, giving you words of encouragement while you're playing. I think quarantine might be getting to me because it's just, it really helps the lack of human contact. But anyway, all jokes aside, the game is really unique. It does something that's, I think, really interesing in the card game environment, and because of that, it has some benefits that other card games don't have. The biggest of which being that because it's asynchronous PvP, A, you know, like I mentioned, you don't have to deal with ropers, but B, there's no pressure for you to play on turn anyway. This makes it good for kind of when you're like multitasking, you know, maybe someone's gonna like message you and, you know, you might have to like bounce back and forth between each activity. You get the feel of playing against opponents' decks, like human created decks, as well as their general playstyle, because the AI will have learned from them and will play fairly similarly to how they do. But, you know, unlike those environments where you're against actual humans, you can take all the time in the world. There's no timer for you either. But it's this sort of innovation in the industry that I really respect, and I decline most sponsorships that get offered to me, but I looked at this and I was like, wow, that's a really cool idea, let's check it out. Lastly, I should mention this is a game for Android and iOS, but you can play it on a PC with an emulator such as BlueStacks. It's a very simple process to set up. But anyway, that's enough about the game, and now we can talk about how the game actually plays out. So there are a total of 16 different code man, or the AI partners you have. There's basically everything you'd expect from any sort of like anime-based game. There's a lot of like, you know, little anime tropes, like there's nurses and this is like an idol. For me personally, I went with Medulla Barani, apparently a statistics calculation program. Yeah, she's back. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and get into the deck building of this all and see how this works out. I personally haven't actually used this feature yet. I've done many of the battles in this game, but there is a feature to allow AI to either complete decks for you or maybe even build a deck from scratch for you, which is extremely fascinating, especially if the, you know, kind of machine learning process is very robust here. I'm gonna go ahead and let my codeman construct a deck from scratch, and we're gonna see what happens. I have no idea if this is gonna be any decent at all. Okay, so she's recommending for me a deck that has a lot of red, a Chimera, and a Phoenix Force. Okay, very interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and try this out. Why not? I'm gonna take her word for it, because that way I can always blame her if it goes poorly. Now this feature is mostly meant to be like filling in gaps when, you know, you're at the deck build, you're looking for the last like 5 or 10 cards you're not sure about, you press the button and your AI will kind of like throw some cards in there. I'm doing what maybe is unadvisable and having them build an entire deck just to see how it goes. Alright, so I'm just going to jump right into a match here with that deck. So we're going to go ahead and queue up, and because we are asynchronous PvP, we are just against like opponent's decks, we're going to find a queue very quickly, because it's always going to be quick, because you're against someone who's not necessarily playing at that exact moment, which is great. So let's go ahead and see how this deck ends up working out. So, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's talk about this game a little bit, because I still haven't really explained how the actual card battling works here. We're going to have to break that one down. I'm going to have some eye contact problems, because I'm staring at my tablet off screen. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go first here, and my AI is already talking to me. Now, you can turn that on or off by toggling the auto button here. We're going to go ahead and leave that on in this case, and you can see she recommends a play based on what her machine learning has said. So she's recommending that we mulligan these 3 cards here. That's indicated by the blue arrows, and she will recommend her play on every single decision in the game. So if you want to, you can kind of let this play on autopilot if you really are just focusing on something else, like you're watching a movie and you just kind of want to like tune off and, you know, just play and do what she's telling you to. That works, but you definitely don't have to. And you do kind of want to play well, at least early on, so she can learn from you, because when the AI start, they do recommend a lot of decisions that don't necessarily make sense. Like, for example, she's suggesting keeping this 7-mana card, Beast of Death. I presume she's doing that just because she's seen this card, based on the games I've played, have very high success rates, but it's not a card I want to be keeping in the mulligan because it's just too slow. I will slightly disregard her advice here. I think it's a really interesting system that there's very few games that do, which is the idea of AI suggestions. As I mentioned before, there is like a chess format that's built upon this premise, and it leads to a lot of interesting things. Sometimes they'll be suggesting things that you didn't think of, and you'll really have to think about them. Okay, so you're gonna gain 1 mana every single turn. Unit's mana cost is indicated in the upper left, as you would expect. And their battle points are the 300, 200 there that you see. Battle points are what dictates which unit wins a combat when units fight each other, whereas damage points indicate how much damage it's going to be dealing when it goes face. Damage points here are 0 for my unit. They are the number in the diamond. So, an interesting mechanic in this game is that you can use your units as mana. We have 2 mana, that's, you can see here, this, oh, I can draw on the screen. These little gray cards are mana that you gain passively, but I can also turn my unit into mana. Because it has 0 damage points, I'm going to go ahead and do that, although it's mana that I can't use this turn. But it's a way to get mana later, which is very valuable. Now, we have 2 mana to spend here, and she's suggesting we play one of the Goblin Soldiers in our hand, which makes sense. There's not really anything else to play. Alright, and she's suggesting attacking the opponent's force. Now, each combat, you have 3 different attack decisions. There's the force on the left, the force on the right, and the basically code mana, or the opponent's life total in the middle. And when you kill a force, the opponent does get to effectively ramp. They get to draw a card and get a mana crystal. So there's a bit of a downside, but each of the forces has powerful active abilities that they're doing, right? So this one's saying all minions that are not tokens return to active states, and this one's saying if you have 4 more mana, your movement is increased by 1. I'm actually going to go ahead and slightly disregard her here and attack the force on the right side instead of the one on the left side. We're not really in a hurry to be killing a force because, of course, it allows the opponent to draw when we do, and the one on the left isn't really threatening here. Very interesting. Okay, they play a pretty weak unit, 200 battle points, and she's suggesting playing our own weak unit, Shielded Goblin. I think I want to take this a lot more aggressively. We don't really have amazing ways to curve this, but we do have the ability to basically play for offense with the Bomb Wall. I'll go ahead and play this out now. So this has an effect that's pretty straightforward. When summoned, destroy one of your opponent's minions with 400 battle points or lower. And she's suggesting moving it to the mana reserve, which I think doesn't end up... yeah, no, it makes sense. It actually does have 0 damage points, so there's no reason to attack with it. We'll send it to the mana reserve, and an additional thing is that units do have the ability to be pulled out of the mana reserve. When they're converted into mana, you can use an action to bring them back later, which is really interesting. It's effectively a way that changes the ramp mechanics of the game. So we'll go ahead and just play our other unit here. And it doesn't have any damage points, so there's no point in attacking with it, right? I'll just show that. It's 0 damage, you can see there in the little diamond, so it does nothing when it attacks. Now, when you attack, you expend your ability to block next turn under normal circumstances. There's certain things that will basically circumvent that. Okay, so he's sending an attack to me with 500 battle points. Now, battle points work basically, it's just a straight up damage value. If units with battle points collide, the one with the weaker battle points dies, and the one with the bigger battle points doesn't lose anything at all, right? So if I was to take a block here, I would be, you know, potentially protecting my thing, but I'd lose one of my units for kind of effectively no reason here. I'll just be happy to take one of the damage to one of my forces. But his unit, his unit does actually get the ability to reblock because of the Force of Eternity Ouroboros. We both have that one. That's what allows our units to attack and then not have to, and be able to block afterwards, which is really powerful. Maybe I should actually kill that. Okay, so we can go ahead and, you know what? Let's take her advice here. Let's go ahead and play our Blaze out. So the Blaze is 300 battle points, and we can go ahead and take her advice again and buff up this one on the side. Now she's suggesting, you know, benching this guy, which makes sense. He has 0 damage point. There's no reason to try to attack with him. And that allows us to play this little cute guy, Healing Sheep, using the extra mana that we have by sending him to the back. Now, we just get like an extra bit of life, and we have the ability to attack here. The really nice thing about this is that because we got the buff off of our Blaze, we have enough battle points to attack without him really being able to block, right? Now, she's suggesting attacking the opponent's life force with our Blaze. This is really interesting. We would basically just be allowing him to block and kill it, and all for dealing a total of 1 damage to the force, which we can't necessarily kill later. I'm gonna go ahead and decline this instead. We could take an attack there. I don't think it's gonna be worth it here. I would have if I had the ability to kill the force. So he's gonna go ahead and attack my face directly. And I'm just gonna go ahead and let that through. There's nothing really happening here that I need to worry about. Life is a resource, as it is with all card games. Okay, so he's gonna summon a new thing, Brave Dramar, and he's going to attack my force. Now, when a unit's summoned, for the first turn it's summoned, it can attack a force, but it can't attack the life total, so that's why he's attacking the force. And he's got 2 damage points, which means he's actually threatening my thing. I have to block, otherwise my force will actually die. And I think keeping this force up is going to be worth it. Okay, so we have a total of 8 mana. We have the suggestion to play our Chalchalcio. There's not really like a negative on this in terms of like curve or anything. The board is bigger than ours. We don't really have like great abilities to defend here. We're mostly just gonna have to try to like hunker down and draw things that are allowing us to get into better cards. Little light on spells this deck. And yeah, I mean we can play more minions. We're in a unique position. She is suggesting attacking the force, and we probably have the ability to power down that force and then race down with a swarm of minions. I think I will try doing that. It is really interesting. Let's go ahead and send in our weak one first. So let's talk about exactly what's happening here. We can declare our attacks one at a time, and there's no proper like main battle phase, so we can play units between our attacks. But what we're doing is quite interesting. We're basically sending in a bunch of units to die, right? They're getting free blocks off, but they can only block once per turn. Lastly, I'll play Armadillo, which will allow me to finish this off, which is really valuable. I can kill this force. Their units have blocked, they're grayed out, they can't use any more actions. I killed one force, and now I can use my monkey to actually... I'm not going to kill the other force. Oh no, wait. Oh no, wait. I played the monkey this time. I have to kill the other force. Never mind. Okay, so we've killed both of the forces. Both of those passives are disabled, and that's pretty valuable. Now she's suggesting moving one of the mana back to the board to be able to block, and I think that's a really good idea. Of course, because I still have my force up, the Force of Eternity Ouroboros, I can attack and then block. So my strategy here, if I kill his Force of Ouroboros, which I did, by expending a lot of temporary weak units, now all of a sudden if he wants to attack me, he has to lose the ability to block next turn, which means I can maybe race him down. It's hard for him to race me under these conditions. So this could be his way of winning. However, he's got a few powerful spells. Okay, never mind. We lost. This is terrible. Yeah. We're suggesting tanking this. She suggested blocking that, but I actually would prefer to tank that, since it stops him from being able to attack one more time. So, we can go ahead and play our Bomb Boy. So, we have the ability to destroy one of these blockers, which is really nice. I'm gonna destroy one of the active blockers. And then, of course, you can move the bomb wall back to the base. This allows it to, you know, become a mana crystal, and you can replay it later. In this case, though, I think we are just committed to this idea of racing them down. So we're gonna try this. Let's move this to base now. And that allows us to have exactly enough mana to summon the Spiral Python. Take this attack. The Codeman's down to 4 already, but unfortunately they're smart enough to save their 1 blocker for my 2 damage point attacker. So, they're still at 3. This is going poorly, guys. I don't know if we can take this opponent down. Alright, they're taking an attack. We do have a pretty good block here. I'll take her advice on this block. 500 battle points. That's fine. Because I'm actually, it's sort of interesting. So I want to talk about that play we just did. Because that, okay, so in normal combat, they attacked with a 300 and a 500 on reserve. So normally I'd block with a 400, and then I'd save my 500 to block their 500. When they're even, they both would die, right? But I actually want him to attack my force. Because the force he can kill is the weaker one that I don't mind dying. And when he kills the force, I get to draw a card. So I'm kind of like baiting him into allowing me to draw a card, which is valuable because I think it's one of the few ways I might have the ability to win here. So they're suggesting taking a block, which is really fascinating to me. This minion receives +1 DP for every other... Okay. And then this one... It just increases movement by 1. My Codeman is going down to 1 health here. I will disregard her advice, and I will tank this and go down to 1. Because I have the ability to block... okay, that's really strong. Well, okay, well, I definitely have to block now. Alright, this is gonna be close. They're expending basically all of their stuff. When boosted, this minion enters the active state. Oh, so it has, like, multi-attack? Oh, that's kind of cheating. Okay. Alright, do we have it? Are we good? Okay! We can play cards! When summoned, draw 1 card. That's gonna be good. Okay. Alright, we have the Leviathan. We're at 1 health. We're gonna send it in. Oh, are we good? Yo, we're good, dude. Okay, we got it. Alright, so I want to point out, if you were wondering, the reason why they couldn't kill us on their last turn with their final 1 damage point attacker is because it was played that turn. And again, units played on the turn can attack, but they can only attack the side crystals and not the main one. They can't attack your life total directly. Man, that was a crazy comeback. That feels really good. I think that guy had, well, I don't think, that guy definitely had a better deck than us. He had a deck that he put the cards into by deciding them instead of, okay, I need to build my own deck. No offense to my Codeman's deck building skills. I'd love to see like the deck from scratch function when, you know, she actually has like a slightly more advanced AI after playing with me more. But it is apparent that it was more intended for filling out slots rather than building a deck from scratch. Okay, let's go ahead and check out the status. So, you know, we got a level up, and then there's the kind of like personality gauges, which she hasn't really done anything with. But let's go ahead and kind of like look at what's happening here and check the details of this fight, because this is sort of stuff that I find kind of like truly fascinating. This is sort of like part of apparently how the machine learning algorithm is processing, which is, you know, effective like values per turn and per actions. So it'll take like inherent scores, like metrics of like success, and then cross-reference that with like actions that occurred like on those turns or previous turns. I don't know the exact specifics of how it works, but machine learning has always been kind of a fascination of mine. So I think that it's just a really interesting concept to see, like, to be able to play it and see how your AI kind of grows and develops with you as a player. It's sort of a feedback loop, because they're suggesting things that you weren't think of, they're making you better, and then you in turn are making them better. It's a really cool concept, and I'd love to see more games try to approach it this way. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'm going to put a link in the pinned comment that you guys should click on to gain access to Zenonzard. And make sure to follow their social media pages to keep updated on any releases on this game in the future. That's it for me. I'll see you guys next time.